So, we've talked about the past, we've talked about the present, let's talk about the future. So, here is a big block of squares that represents our backlog. So, each one of these squares is a ship or a vehicle. All the light blue ones are all the ones we have released to date. All those gray ones are the ones that we have not done yet. The dark blue ones are the ones that will be in your hands by the end of the year. So,
I think it's time we do another Ships of the Pipeline. What do you say? Let's get this. Okay, so for those of you who did not see SitCon, this is what CIG came up with in order to show what they've released, what they haven't released yet, and what they came up with in 2023. I don't think it includes some of the concept ships that are coming in 2024, and I'll get into those at the end of the vid. But basically, this particular series came out of, I want to say about 2 years ago. Certain content creator kind of just, I think it was an off-end comment. They were obviously over-exaggerating and they were probably joking, but they said there was something like 150 ships on the backlog, and there wasn't. Even back then, there wasn't. And so as kind of an answer to that, and worse than just the content creator saying that, is that people in the community began to take that as gospel and start parroting that number without actually looking at what was done. So what I do in this series is go through each ship by ship and sort of say, this one's done, this one isn't done. And usually the reasons why ships that have been in the hopper for a long time haven't been done come down to 3 reasons. They're either very large, they're complicated, or their game loop isn't in yet. And sometimes all 3. And I'll kind of go into, when I hit one of those, I'll say, this is why this one isn't in yet. On some of them, I don't have as easy an out on that, but we'll just kind of go through it, and let's get started. So right here is the ship matrix, and this is every ship. Let me make sure that I'm all the way over. I am. This is every ship that we know about, so everything that's a concept, everything that has been released is here. The only thing that isn't on the ship matrix page are the unannounced ships that they haven't shown to us yet. And even then, we know a few of those that are out there, but there's always going to be unknown. So without bearing the lead any further, let's go ahead and jump into this. So the Aurora series, all of these are out. One thing I'll say about this is the Aurora is probably going to get a light rework in the nearest future while they're working on RSI ships. It would not surprise me if they kind of get rid of the strut pit. It also has a bespoke animation for getting into and out of the seat. You kind of have to squeeze past the seat, get around, and then you sit down, and it takes forever. And it is the only ship that does that. So they are probably just going to have it that the seat spins like every other RSI ship. You sit down and then it spins back and you're in the driver's seat like that. I would assume I would not be surprised if they snuck that in this year. Just kind of did a gold standard pass on the Aurora while they're doing other ones. Shouldn't take too long. It's not a very big or complicated ship. But all of those guys, they're out. All right, the 300 series, all of them are out. They already had their rework. They already fly pretty nice. They'll probably do little tweaks to them, but they're out. So they're not in the backlog. The Hornet series, all of these are out. The only one that we don't have in our hot little hands is the military version. Here it is, the F7CM is the one that we get in. Oh no, that is the Super Hornet. We do have that one in game. I want to say that there's a military version for Squadron 42 that we don't have in the game yet, but they do have in Squadron 42. So all of these, they're out. Connie Aquila, Connie Andromeda, Taurus, and Phoenix, and the Emerald, all of these are out. Just like the Aurora, I would not be surprised if they get a quick update pass. The externals on them are pretty decent. They don't quite match the new RSI style, which is more of the Dorito shape. So they might eventually go back and make a 29, 70, or 55 version of the Connie eventually, but it's a low priority. But the internals on the ship are dated. Definitely the strut pit is a problem. But other than that, they're not bad. But they're in the game. So they'll get an update pass eventually, but they're in the game, they work. The Freelancer series is in the game. They do work, badly in need of an update. Like, they predate physicalized components and physicalized buttons and all of that. My theory for a while has been that if 2024 is RSI's year, 2025 should be Misk's year and culminate in releasing the Odyssey. But the Freelancer series should definitely get a pass. But they're in the game and they work. All the Cutlasses are in the game, including, for some reason, the Cutlass Steel. In the game, they all work. They're relatively modern. The Cutlass Black and... I'm trying to remember which of these don't have a shoylet. I don't think any of them do. Well, no, I think the Cutlass Blue does. I don't think the Cutlass Red does. But they're in the game, they work. Pretty much all you can say about that. The Avenger series, all of the Avengers are in the game, they work. Actually an older model, but it holds up pretty well. It is a pretty good ship in the game, not part of the backlog. The Gladiator is hugely dated, but it's kind of supposed to be. I enjoy flying around the Gladiator, even though it is in no way a meta ship. If you're going to do little dinky combat missions at the front, the Gladiator is a fun way to do them. M50 is in the game. It might get like a gold standard pass where they make the buttons physicalized, but other than that, it's pretty good the way it is. Like I was saying with Misk, the Starfarer is a series that badly needs to be... The externals are probably fine. The internals are a mess. This thing is an absolute mess inside, but it is in the game and it does work and its game loop is in there, so it's not part of the backlog. Caterpillars, all in the game. They're all just basically the same ship with different paint jobs. Eventually, the ship will have modularity and you'll be able to pull out the cargo pods and put in different pods. Maybe 2026 will be Drake's year and they'll actually get to that, but it is on their radar that these things will get their modularity. Oh, and I will say that there are different types of pods that the Starfarer has. It also has cargo pods, so you can pull out the gas pods and put in cargo pods. Kind of cool. The Retaliator. So the Retaliator is getting an update this year, probably within the next couple months, and it'll finally get its modularity and its gold standard pass. Like they basically redid the entire insides on this ship. So we should be getting that this year, but the ship is in the game right now and it works. The Scythe is in the game, does work. They do have an updated version for Squadron 42. And we will be getting that once Squadron 42 goes live. Or they said after Squadron 42 goes live. The Idris, this one is in theory done for Squadron 42, but they're not going to give it to us until Squadron 42 drops. Unlike the Van Duel ships, the Idris is going to drop to us when Squadron 42 drops. So everybody that's got an Idris, all the versions of it, the P, the M, the P, and the K, which I don't know if the K is further down. They might not have it listed here, which would be weird. Kind of blow up my theory that I had at the beginning, so we'll just ignore that. But yeah, Idris, all versions will drop when Squadron 42 drops, but the ship is done. It's not part of the backlog. Merlin, obviously in the game, little tiny snub, kind of fun to fly. If you want to do Vandal or Pirates Swarm, it's kind of a fun one to do it because it's really tiny and hard to hit. The Mustang series, kind of had its rework. They completely remade these ships a few years back. I want to say like 6 years back now, but they're relatively modern. They're starters, so they're pretty simple ships. I still think they need to add a bed to the Mustang Alpha, just like right behind the seat, just because all of the Auroras have a bed, and pretty much I think all of the starters have beds except for the Mustangs, except for the Beta, which obviously has a whole camper van in the back. But Mustangs in the game, not part of the backlog. Redeemer is in the game, not part of the backlog, works fine. I wouldn't say it's a meta ship, but it's definitely, if you can get 2 other friends with you, it is a really nasty ship to butt heads with. Gladius, obviously the hero ship of Squad 42. Its gold standard is in. If you're going to get a fighter, this one will always be the bleeding edge of the current tech of CIG, because it's the hero ship for Squadron 42, so they always have to remake it. GN ships. So GN ships have recently gotten kind of an update, both with the Sulian and the Santokii. The Cartual was the first one we got, and while it's way oversized for a scout, like it should probably be half the size. And I mean, again, the same problem that the Santokii and the Sulian have is they just have this gigantic cross section. They don't have the hit points to actually justify that size. I think that they should give Jian bespoke shields that are really, really powerful, and then basically no armor. So if you get through their shields, they're paper, but until you do, they're pretty tough. Merchantman, which is my baby, is part of the backlog. They worked on it for a while. They lost both of the devs that were working on it, one of them very senior. And yeah, it's on the back burner for now. I think as they spin up more devs to work on ships, this one will probably come back on the burner. They even talked about it during CitizenCon, which basically they had like a 5-minute show on it and then said, yeah, and we're not working on it. It's like, cool. Thanks for that. But anyway, Bam Merchantman is on the backlog. One of the reasons that it hasn't been released is because it's big and it's complicated. And it's not complicated because it carries cargo. Oh, and it's game loop, isn't it? Because it requires shops, working shops. And we don't have working player shops in the game yet. It's a huge alien ship that they don't really have a style guide for outside of the Band Defender. So, yeah, they don't really have a whole lot to go off of in this. It would just take a ton of dev time. And they said, we can knock out all of these RSI ships in the time it would take out to knock out the BMM. Let's get more bang for our buck, knock out all of these things for RSI, and then we'll come back and do the Merchantman, which sucks for me, but really in a game that's in development anyway, I'd rather my ship was near the end of the line than the start of the line, because it means it's going to get all the bells and whistles, even if it hurts me that I'm not flying around the verse in it. A90 jump in the game. We'll probably get a small update pass, but the 890 holds up right now. It's a pretty solid ship. They nailed the inside of that ship. It really feels like a luxury super yacht. Carrick. Carrick is missing some gameplay, obviously. It doesn't have its drones. It's probably going to get a small update pass at some point for the physicalized cargo, or the physicalized components and buttons and stuff like that. It's got modular cargo pods that can be switched out a lot like the Caterpillar for other types of pods. But in theory, those should be able to drop down and drop out of the ship. You can kind of see them. There's, I think, 4 of them tucked in right there. A lot like the Caterpillar. That isn't in the game yet. And it has these little antenna here that help it map out the interiors of jump points, which obviously aren't in yet. But the ship is in the game, is flyable. I wouldn't say it's my daily driver, but I do pull it on occasion. Herald, this one is in the game, is kind of weirdly fun to fly around in. I will occasionally do bunker missions and stuff like that in the Herald. It is just so fast that it's kind of fun to fly. It does not have the data spikes. Right now it carries missiles, but those missiles are actually data spikes. In theory, I think what those do is you can shoot them into another ship and then more or less hack that ship and steal the data that's on that ship. And then it's a data runner, which obviously the data running loop isn't in the game. So this ship's functionality is very limited right now. Hull C is in the game, is having some issues because its game loop is working mostly, kind of. In theory, they fixed it for 3.22. We'll find out in a couple weeks once they release the next patch. It sounds like they got it working right now. One of the problems, the loop they've built for it is really unfun. You come up, you land, you let's say that you have cargo on your ship already. You dock, you have to get out, run into the admin center, sell everything, go back to your ship, undock, go to the unloading zone, unload everything, and then you have to redock, go to the admin center, buy the next set of cargo, undock, go back to the loading zone, load your stuff. If they would have just done it like the ad and just had the loading zone be the docking arm and then kind of have a time limit on it, like you have to have this thing loaded in 30 minutes, or add more docking arms down in the loading zone area, would have made way more sense. So I think in the hurry to get it in there, it got in there before they had fully fleshed out how that system would work. Hull A, on the other hand, is in the game, does work fine. We don't have the Hull B, we don't have the Hull D, we don't have the Hull E. All of those are backlog ships. I would suspect of all these guys, Hull B will probably be the one that will see it. If 2025, if I'm right about that theory, and that's Misk's year, that's probably when we'll start seeing these guys come out, at least the Hull B. That's the one that's freelancer sized, but can carry like 6 times the cargo or something. Orion, obviously a backlog ship. And the reason that the Hull D and E aren't in is because they're enormous. I mean, the Hull C is enormous. These guys are just ridiculous. We need a working economy before they're in, so the loop isn't really in either. The Orion backlog ship, it is huge. It's the capital-sized miner, so we're not going to see it until we have the assets that would justify a miner of that size. It has refining, which also isn't in the game. So the Orion's probably a little ways off. We'll get the Arastra, and then we'll start being able to determine what the Orion can do from that. Orion is a backlog ship, but it's a backlog ship because it's huge. Reclaimer is in the game, does work. If you've watched some of my stuff on gameplay, I run around in Wolfie's Yaz Queen, which is a reclaimer, so it works great. It is the money earner of the verse right now. Badly needs an update, but it works. Javelin. So we don't really know how far along the Javelin is as far as like its internals go. It works. It'll be in Squadron 42, but I don't know how in-depth the interiors will be. Technically on the backlog, but I'd say it's probably 90% of the way finished. But we're probably not getting it for a couple years. So this one is a backlog ship. Again, it's huge. I think it is the largest player ship in the game that we know of at this time. Vanguard series. Vanguards are all in. They all work fine. Probably need a little bit of an update. In theory, they should be able to change their orientation here and kind of flip their wings back while they're flying. So a lot like the Corsair can put its wings up and down. The Vanguard series should be able to do the same, just kind of while they're flying around in space, they can tuck their wings in. But other than that, it probably needs a little bit of an update to give it physicalized buttons and that kind of stuff. But other than that, it's pretty good ship as is. Reliant series, all of them are in the game, even though the Reliant Mako, we have zero idea what a reporting ship or a reporting loop will do in this game. And I'll probably I might throw that as a toss in on my mild speculation series, but we'll see. That one's up in the air. But as far as the backlog goes, these ships are in the game. They need an update because there's a lot of things about them that just don't make sense with the modern ships in Star Citizen, that they've got some issues, but they're in the game, they work. Genesis Starliner. So this is the big cruise liner in the ship. Again, focus on big. It is a huge ship, which is why it's not in the game yet. We don't have the passenger loop yet, and I'll kind of get to that one in a little bit. But Genesis Starliner, backlog, but it's a backlog because its loop isn't in, and it's very big. Mildly complicated because we don't have the passenger loop in, and we have to have working servers before they will be. Glaive, same situation as all the Vanduul ships. They've updated these for Squadron 42. We won't get the updated version until we get Squadron 42, but it is in the game and it does work now. Endeavor, all the different variants of the Endeavor, or all the module parts. It's waiting for modularity. It's a capital ship. It's gigantic. It's complex. Its game loops aren't in yet. That's why it's on the backlog. Sabers are in the game. They work. Probably needs like working stealth, but again, it's a fighter. It works. It's in the game. Saber Raven, I do have one of these because I bought an Optane back in the day. Actually ran Star Citizen off of it for years until I got my new rig. Fun little ship to fly. It's not particularly nimble, weirdly enough, but hopefully once they come in with the new flight model, they're working on its gold standard now, so in theory it'll be flying better. But it's in the game. Crucible is not in the game. This is a backlog ship. So this one, again, is a capital-sized repair ship. We don't have those mechanics in the game. It's a big ship. It's complicated. It is very complicated in all the moving parts and what it can do. So probably won't be seeing it until we start seeing smaller repair ships like the Vulcan. But backlog ship for a reason. P-72 Archimedes, they're in the game. They work fine. They're fun to fly around in and race with. Blade, same thing as the other Vanduul ships. We get them in Squad 42. It's in the game now, but we'll get an updated version eventually. Prospector, in the game, works great. It kind of has its niche now, which is nice. I think it does need physicalized buttons. It has some issues with the saddlebags. I haven't had this issue, but I know other people have. So considering that I have some issues that I haven't seen other people have, I totally sympathize with those people, but it's in the game, it works. Buccaneer, in the game, it works. Probably needs a slight update pass, but it's not in the backlog. Dragonfly is obviously in there. MPUV, so they call it personnel and cargo. Basically, the personnel, it just has an escape pod as the personnel pod on the back of it, and this is just a cargo pod. The real MPUV is this shape right here, and this whole thing is modular. Like, it can pop it off and on, and it can also carry like big boxes. This thing is basically just, think of it like a forklift, and that's what the MPUV is. We know we're getting a version of this, and I'll get to that later. They're going to have the modular version coming out. Terrapin is in the game right now. Kind of missing its functionality just because scanning isn't really where it should be. Armor isn't really in the game. They just give it a crap ton of hit points, but it doesn't actually have armor yet. Or the stealth gameplay, which is where it's going to shine. Kind of a dated ship, but it's cool. Again, Terrapin is another one that I like to fly around in just because it's kind of goofy. You don't see them too often, and I think it's fun, so don't judge me. Polaris. In theory, they are, well, and judging from the weekly reports, it looks like the Polaris is kind of screaming along. So we might see the Polaris by the end of this year. I was thinking maybe next year, but it's looking like they might actually get it to us. Again, giant ship. It's not overly complicated, though. It's a human ship. It's a combat ship. We have both of those elements in the game. Really, the only thing that's holding it back to this point was the fact that it's really big. Prowler in the game, 85. In the game, probably needs some work. It needs a little bit of an update pass. 85X in the game works fine. Razors in the game work fine. Hurricane was a meta ship for a hot minute. Still not a bad ship for two people to take out. You will give pretty much anything up to a constellation pause if you're in a fully crewed Hurricane, which is two people. Band Defender probably needs a little bit of an update pass, but by and large, decent alien ship. Again, it probably needs, like all the alien ships are oversized for what they do. And they don't have the firepower, the shielding, or the armor, or the hit points to make them survivable, so they're never the go-to choice. People basically just fly them because they look cool at this point. They're fine against NPCs, but any human player is going to jack you up in one. Still, Band Defender is my daily flyer, more or less, when I'm running bunkers, because the little crab mouth that opens up is actually big enough to fit one of the big boxes through. Not the 32 SCU, but like the 1 SCU box. Eclipse in the game works fine. Its stealth is faked. It has a fake signal right now that makes it very hard to detect, but in the game works. Might have a small update pass to it. Nox in the game works. Cyclones in the game, they work. Ursa is in the game. Lynx is in the game. 600, we're getting a rework on this. Haven't heard anything about that in a while, like over a year. But it's in the game. It works now. We're getting an update pass on it. X1 is finally in the game, all three of them, so they're not backlog anymore. Pioneer, backlog ship, gigantic, very complicated. Game loop isn't in yet. Gonna be a couple years before we see it. Like, when I say a couple, like 5. Hawk. They're doing a little bit of an update pass on this, because right now there's just the little insect butt on the back of it. Opens up and there's a chair there. Now what it's going to do is there's an arm that comes down and kind of the Boba Fett encased in carbonite thing hooks up to it and it pulls it up. And that's how you carry your bounties around. But that should be to us real shortly. It looked like it was pretty far along. But the Hawk is in the game and works right now. Hammerhead in the game works right now. And I skipped the Tonk. The Nova Tonk in the game works right now. Vulcan. So this is one of the few that is not a huge ship that is in the game. But it does have a few features that kind of fall into the mildly complicated, doesn't have its loop yet. It can refuel, repair, rearm other ships. It has drones. Drones aren't in the game yet. And so that's probably what's holding the Vulcan back. I would assume the Vulcan would be the first one on the step of the whole repair thing leading up to the Crucible. We should see it relatively soon. I think it'll be probably 2025 at the earliest, though. We're probably not getting it this year. 100 series in the game fly great. They're good starters, fly really well. I wouldn't try fighting anyone in one, but if you're gonna get one, get the 135C, because it's basically exactly the same as the 100I, except it carries like twice the cargo. So there's literally no reason to take the 100 over the 135C. The Hercules series, all in the game, big ships, work fine, relatively modern. It would be nice if we could lock the doors open Vulture in the game, its game loop is in, it works great. The Apollo series is not in the game yet. I would not be shocked if we see this ship this year. They have kind of hinted that they'll be working on this one a few times. It's kind of popped up and off on the roadmap a couple times. We know we're getting another level of medical gameplay coming soon, like within the next few months. So Apollo, don't be shocked if it drops this year. Maybe later in the year, but I wouldn't be shocked if it drops this year. Mercury Star Runner is starting to get a little bit dated now, but it's not bad. Internals on it, it flies great. In the game, obviously. Valkyries in the game work great. Kraken's backlog ship. So they are both the Kraken and the Kraken Privateer. Privateer is kind of the competitor to the Banu Merchantman. As a Banu Merchantman lover myself, I would argue that the Privateer is arguably better because it has landing pads. So ships can come up, land on it, and then trade. Whereas with the Banu Merchantman, they either have to lock or dock with it, or it has to be landed on the ground and vulnerable, where the Privateer doesn't. Anyway, not in the game. Big ship, complicated ship. Game loop for the carrier actually is in. For the Privateer, not in. So this one will be waiting on stores, but again, it's waiting on dev time. That's a huge ship. Whenever they have their Drake year and they kind of go back and they do like the update passes on the smaller ships like the Cutlass and the Buccaneer, the Gold Standard pass on the Caterpillar, they'll probably do it all at the same time. At that point, they'll go and they'll probably tackle the Kraken. So call it 2025, 2026, maybe 2027. I don't know. It's a little ways off. Arrow obviously is one of kind of always up there in the top echelons of the meta fighters for this game. Obviously, it's in the game. It works. It's fine. The Suntoki is in the game. It works. It needs a little bit of help, but I think they're kind of waiting until armor is in the game, and then they'll start really balancing out the ships, and the flight model is finalized. In the game, works. SRV, couldn't say this last time I did this, is in the game and it works. It's kind of cool. I haven't pulled mine as often as I wanted to. I might start doing it. It'd be kind of interesting to run some of the salvage missions where you have a limited amount of time to salvage the thing and just tow it out of the way. Corsair in the game works great. Very cool ship interior. Probably one of my favorite ship interiors in the game right now is the Corsair, and it's a good ship to solo. It's a good ship to run out there with even a two-person crew can make that ship a lot of fun. Rangers, these are on the backlog, and it's kind of weird. From what I understand with this one, obviously it's not size. These are motorcycles. From what I understand, it's a complication thing. Getting two wheels to work the way they want it to is being a bit of an issue. You can sort of see the design of the bike too is almost like a Space Marine bike, like a 40K Space Marine bike, that you look at it and you're kind of like, that's a really cool bike. And then you have to think about the mechanics of how the hell would you turn on it? Like, I mean, unless you're doing jump kicks and stuff like that, it's not turning. Bunny hops, I don't know. Like this one, it just doesn't look like the front wheel can turn, and they've got to figure out balancing. They want to make motorcycles feel right, so that one is a complication thing, probably a lower priority. But I'm looking forward to the Ranger. Ranger's something I'm looking forward to. All of the Atlas chassis vehicles that we know of are in, which is the Ballista. This is all the Ballista right here. Okay, so yeah, the Ballista is in the game. Works fine. We know there's another version out there that'll be working as like a surveyor or base builder that they haven't dropped on us. Probably won't drop on us until like the end of the year, whenever they do their base building thing. But the Ballista is in the game. Works fine. Nautilus, huge ship, and game loop isn't in the game. Is on the backlog for that reason. Both versions, I think this one's just a different skin. Yeah, Solstice Edition is just a different skin, so it's the same ship. But we don't have mines in the game yet, at least not like that. Mine laying isn't in the game, and it's a big ship. It's bigger than the Hammerhead, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that's why they haven't worked on it yet. Manus in the game and is I just got interdicted by a player the other day that was in a Mantis while I was in a Taurus, and I both couldn't outrun it and couldn't outmaneuver to even shoot it. And so I mean it just kind of kept staying in my blind spot and took me apart. So yeah, Mantis in the game works just fine, unfortunately. Thankfully, I wasn't running cargo, so I didn't really lose anything. It was kind of fun to tangle with them. Pisces, all the Pisces are in the game. So you've got the medical version, which works fine. You've got the expedition version, which has an extra pair of guns, works fine. Regular Pisces only has 2 guns, but these are great runabout ships. Probably the closest thing we have in game to the Star Wars shuttle. Ares Inferno, Ares Ion, both in the game. Probably need a little bit of a tweak to them, but they're kind of dialing that in. Both in the game work fine. Mole in the game works fine. All the versions. I have the Carbon Edition, which I thought was going to be like a regular edition anyone could buy. It turns out it was just something they sold at Concept. So this always made me nervous about Concept sales, about not getting the skin that I want. Anyways, G12, not in the game, but we're getting it soon. So this is a backlog ship. We'll be getting it soon. If soon means 6 months or 10 months, no idea, but we know they're working on it and we know it's releasing to us pretty quick. Talon Shrike in the game, work fine. Again, they kind of suffer from the alien issue of it's a light fighter, but it's the size of a medium fighter, and if you blow off a wing, it just spins uncontrollably. Rock DS, it's in the game, but I don't know why it's in the game. You sit on a seat that is external, and I have no idea why they made that design choice. Regular Rock is in the game. Nomad is a pretty good starter in the game. Perseus is not in the game, but it is on the list of the ships that they're going to work on. So the things that they're working on are the Polaris, then the Galaxy, then the Perseus. They're going to work on them in that order. They might start working on them concurrently. Perseus is a hair smaller than the Hammerhead, but it's not complicated. It's a bigger ship, which is why they haven't made it to this point. But really that's the only thing holding it back, and we should have it probably within a year or so. We'll have the Perseus in game, if not a little bit sooner. Both Scorpius's size are in the game. Raylan is not in the game, but they let it slip during a ship talk not even a year ago, like 6 months ago, that they were working on it. And it was one of those where Jared just kind of did one of these. And so they have been working on the ship. I think actually the release of the Sulian was building up parts for the Raelian. And then they realized, hey, we've got enough parts. We can actually make a ship out of this. Let's just make a starter. And they made the Sulian. That's my guess of how that conversation went. But I think the Raelian probably isn't that far off, maybe a year and a half if they've got the dev power or less. 400i in the game. Liberator not in the game. I think that this is a dark horse for when they drop Pyro. They'll probably drop the Liberator just because it can carry the smaller ships longer distances. It's not an overly complex ship by any standards. It is a very large ship. It's kind of the next step up from the 600i in sort of the meta of the game. So is a backlog ship, is huge. Odyssey, huge ship, backlog ship. Not in the game because it's an explorer. It has a refinery. I want to say it has a size 3 mining laser on the front of it. which isn't in the game yet. So gameplay isn't really in yet. And it's a huge ship. So probably my theory is that when they have the Mist gear, they're going to knock out the Odyssey and some of the bring the older Mist ships up to date and knock out some of the Mist ships that you'll see a little bit later that are in the backlog. The raft is in the game. You almost never see these things flying around. You can salvage them, but you almost never see them. I do occasionally pull mine. It does not fly well, but it has a really nice interior. Pretty much all I gotta say about it. Spartan is in the game. Hover Quad is in the game. Again, not totally sure why. The Expanse. This is one of the Mist ships that is not in the game. Backlog. For this one, it's not size. This thing isn't huge. It's probably in between the Freelancer and the Connie. It's a refinery ship, though. And refinery isn't in the game. Once we get the refinery mechanics, we'll probably get the Expanse pretty quick after. Legionnaire, I'll be talking about this later, but they're working on it right now. We'll probably be getting it. I would think we'll get it with the hacking game loop, and might be getting it just because it can always work as a drop ship if they don't have hacking in game. Might be getting it for Invictus this year, although that might be a little bit quick. That'd be June. Mule is in the game. It's kind of a fun little driving vehicle to go around in, a little six-wheeled thing that can drive kind of like a tank. Centurion is in the game, does work. C1 Spirit is in the game. A1 Spirit is in the game. E1 Spirit is not. I have more that I'm going to say on that in a bit. The Steve, the STV, is in the game, does work. It has a cousin called the RTV, which is more of a Jeep with like a little flatbed in the back. Not in the game. We know it's out there somewhere. So it's one of the known unknowns for that bit. Cutter, the whole Cutter series are pretty good. If you're going to get one, I would say if you want to focus on cargo, get the regular Cutter. If you want to focus on longer range, get the Scout. I haven't quite figured out what the advantage of the Rambler is. It has a larger living area, which literally has zero impact on the game. Even when the game is fully realized, I don't know what a larger living area would do for you. Maybe you can pack in more Picos. I don't know. Galaxy is on the backlog. They are working on it. It is next in line after the Polaris. So it's going to be Polaris, Galaxy, then the Perseus. They will probably try to knock them out relatively at the same time. So as they're building out the Polaris, they're going to be white boxing and kind of moving those assets into the Galaxy and the Perseus, which means the Galaxy and the Perseus should come along very quickly. The Galaxy does have some elements of it that are not in the game yet, which tells me we'll probably get the combat variant first, or the modular combat or cargo variant first, because it has a cargo variant, a medical variant, and, or I keep saying variant, it's a module. So it has a cargo module, a medical module, and a refinery module. Obviously refinery is in the game, but if they drop that at some point this year, it would be. The Furies, all of the Furies are in the game. You got your racer, your missile version, and your gun version. Kind of a fun little ship to fly. Not super meta, but if you get swarmed by them, I imagine it wouldn't be fun. Storm and Storm AA are both in the game. They need some work on the actual driving mechanics, but that's something they can dial in later. It's in the game, it works. The Zeus series, in theory, what they're going to try to do with the Zeus is the same thing they did with the Spirit for 2023, is they concepted it at the end of 2022, and they released it, or at least released most of them at the end of 2023. They want to do the same thing with the Zeus. They concepted it at the end of 2023. They want to release it to us at the end of 2024. So in theory, we'll be getting these this year, or at least most of them. Just given the different models here, interdiction, expedition, and freight. We should get all three. The only reason that we haven't gotten the E1, which is this one, which I forgot to mention is in the backlog, is because it's a passenger carrier, and we do not have passenger missions in the game yet. And you can sort of see we're almost at the end of the list here. Arastra, obviously not in the game. They just dropped the concept for it. It's a huge ship, probably a little bit off, but not overly complicated, but it is in the backlog. F8 Lightning, we've got now F8 Lightning Executive. I've got one of those, but yeah, those are in the game. Cillian is in the game. So you can kind of see the backlog is not as huge as people think it is, but a lot of people aren't willing to do this exercise, or they actually just click through and say, well, what is and isn't in the game? And in almost every situation where something isn't in the game, it's either because its game loop isn't in the game, it's complicated, so it has a lot of moving parts or something, so think like the Crucible has moving arms and things that drop off, or it's huge. So huge, game loop, or complicated, like the Bam Merchantman is huge and complicated because it's an alien ship that they don't have something for. So let's go ahead and look at this. So we'll wait until they start playing. So this right here, people say Tumbrel. I could see that. I could see Drake or even Argo would make sense. It's got something written right there. I think it's just numbers though. But anyway, it looks like a very, very small hover bike, which I hope it's a hover bike because that would be perfect. That one's in the backlog. Probably going to get it pretty soon because it does not look overly huge. Looks like we've got like a cargo variant and a combat variant. I don't know. I will definitely be getting one of those because a bike that size is perfect. You can fit it in anything. X1s we got. This one's kind of interesting. So this is obviously an Ursa. It's either an Ursa or Ursa variant. The sort of running thought among the community is that this will be some sort of medical variant, which I could certainly see. I could also see it being the gold standard pass of the Ursa because the Ursa is kind of a dated model itself. Yeah, I could see it as being either one of those or both. Like they release a medical version that's kind of an ambulance and they update the other one. All right, so this is what I was talking about with the MPUV. This is what it should look like. This part right here is just modular. This little thing up here is interesting. We've seen this on leaks for a couple of years now, and a lot of people have kind of speculated what it is. The sort of running theory being a tractor beam, which would make sense, but it would also make sense that that's modular, and you could pop out a tractor beam or a salvage beam or, I don't know, a mining beam. Tractor beam makes the most sense to me, though, considering that one of the things this thing does is move cargo boxes. Again, it's basically the forklift of the verse. So this one's interesting. Everybody keeps saying this one's RSI. So I think that this is actually the Spirit E1. So let me show you why. So you look at this image, and then you look at this. I mean, I'm not crazy. That's almost the exact same profile. Right? I mean, it could be a secret RSI ship, but it looks like the wings are folded up like this rather than doing the RSI thing and folding like that. Could totally be wrong about that. That's just what I'm seeing. Is it looks more like this, which this is the E1. This is not the E1, but I mean, even the angle is the same. Well, we're not there yet. So I'm seeing E1 here. I could be wrong, and this could be an RSI ship. I'm seeing E1. Now I can get to this. So this, I was sure this was going to be the Cillian, but it is apparently not. It is, if rumors are to be believed, so if you don't want to be spoiled, look away. In theory, this is a large, I mean, obviously it's large. When I heard that it was Mirai, I was kind of like, but Mirai makes little racers, but then I started thinking about it, and the Fury, I mean, is kind of an upgunned, basically a seat with guns strapped on it. So, I mean, a large fighter isn't too ridiculous, but for those of you who haven't seen it, this is, in theory, what it'll look like, and that makes sense to me. So, a heavy fighter, looks like it's got kind of the orbiting engines and stuff, so could be pretty cool. That, unlike the Mirai Fury, which is kind of fun and tiny, this thing could actually be pretty nasty, I would think. We'll have to see it and get Avenger 1's opinion on it, but it seems pretty nasty. There's the Legionnaire, so again, up here it's got the functions of it that are not in the game yet. And these are all ships that in theory we're getting in 2024. So the Legionnaire, and I don't think is going to be exceptionally hard to make. The only things that I worry about is that it utilizes the hacking gameplay to get the ship that's boarding to allow it to dock up, because it has this sort of docking proboscis that pops out here. But for right now, until that's in the game, if they don't drop it with it, which I think they would want to, it could just be a regular dropship. It carries 10 Marines. I mean, you can see it's not a small ship, and it is heavily armed. So this could be your hot zone dropship until hacking comes online. There's the Zeus. So the Zeus we should be getting at some point this year. At probably the end of the year, we'll be getting the Zeus. Which is weird because this makes it look almost Connie sized. And the Connie is an RSI ship, and the Zeus is an RSI ship. So is this competing with the Connie, or is it competing with the Freelancer? So in theory, it should be competing with the Freelancer. So we'll see. Zeus is a kind of a cool ship. I certainly like the way it looks. I like the way it looks more than the Connie, at least. But I do like flying the Connie. Retaliator. So again, this is not going to be a new ship. It's not in the backlog. The only thing they're showing off here is the modularity. I'm assuming on the gold standard pass, they'll pull some of the guns. I don't know if you've ever flown a Retaliator before, but it has 6 turrets on it. I think it has 2 on the back, 2 here, and 2 here. So yeah, something like 6. Maybe 7. It's covered in guns. It has as many turrets on it as a hammerhead, and it doesn't need that many. It needs maybe 1 there and 1 in the back, and it would be good. Make it a 3-person ship, and it frees up space on the thing. But anyway, the thing that's waiting for is the modularity. Clearly, they're working on it. Again, this vid is things that we are getting this year, so we're getting this year. And then the Polaris, there you go. In theory, we are getting this year. What's interesting... Oh, no, I guess that's just a little antenna. I was looking at this and thinking it was a ramp, but it's just one of its little sort of sensor splines, because the ramp on the Polaris is actually right here on the side. But anyway, the Polaris is the largest ship we've gotten in a while. I think the last ship we had in that size, I think it's a hair smaller than the 890 jump, but it's in that size range. And we don't have many ships that size in the game. I think it's bigger than the Carrack. So that'll be Brave New World. Be very scary to be flying around in larger ships with that thing out in the deep dark. Like when they drop pyro and this thing is out there, that's going to be intimidating, especially if people can crew it up with even 4 or 5 people. It's got a lot of guns, and those torpedoes are enormous. But anyway, guys, I think that's a good place to leave it on. Just the backlog, I can be frustrated with the backlog too, because my favorite ship, the Merchantman, is in that backlog, but it's not as bad as it looks and not as bad as some content creators say. They only have so many devs, and this isn't like Elite Dangerous or Eve or I don't know about No Man's Sky, but you actually have to build the ship so you can walk around the interior and interact with everything on the ship. It all has to make sense. It has to be able to fit in there. It's not just an outside model. Otherwise, they would have had 300 ships in like the first year. It's easy to make an external ship. I was doing it. I'm not that great of a modeler. Anyway, that's why you've got a backlog, is because ships are too big. They don't have enough devs building the ships. There's a missing game loop for that ship, so it would be pointless to drop it into the game. Or it's a really complicated ship, and they need to be able to get enough devs from different teams working on it to make it so that makes sense, so they don't have to remake it 5 years from now. And gang, that's all I got for this one. So you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and see me next time.